One inspiring housekeeper discovers what 20 doctors missed, a life-changing reveal for a brave mother. Maria woke up before dawn, as she did every day, the heavy weight of the world settling on her shoulders before her feet even touched the floor. The sun barely peeked through the frayed curtains of their small apartment as she quietly slid out of bed, careful not to wake her ailing mother or her teenage son, Miguel. Working tirelessly as a housekeeper and at a local diner, Maria was a warrior in a battle against both time and finances. They were all she had, the bond of family that filled the cracks of their struggles, but it wasn't easy. Miguel's dreams of going to college hung like a fragile balloon in the air, threatened by the sharp reality of their life. Every time he mentioned schools or applications, a tight knot formed in Maria's chest. Could they afford it? Could she face the disappointment if they couldn't? "We just need to keep pushing, Miguel," she would say with a forced smile, brushing off her pain like the dust she swiped away from rich people's shelves. Maria's resolve met a tough test as her own health faltered. Every slight ache and twinge became a mountain she climbed with gritted teeth. "You're strong, Maria," she told herself. "Just let it go." Yet when the fatigue morphed into something harder to ignore, she slipped into a string of doctors' offices, each visit cutting like a knife. "You're just tired, ma'am," one doctor said dismissively, waving away her concerns. Frustration bubbled in her chest as she heard it, echoing the patterns of their lives, a busy, bustling world that often refused to see the faces behind the hustle. It was during a peaceful morning, unexpected and cutting through the calm, that everything changed. Perhaps it was the pressure building in her chest, or the way her vision blurred as she grabbed for the kitchen counter. Panic washed over her as she stumbled, the hot coffee spilling over the edges of the mug. For a moment, the bustling noise of the city outside faded, and in that silence, it felt as if time stopped. Her heart raced louder than ever. "Mom! What's wrong?" Miguel's panicked voice broke through the haze, grounding her in reality as she gripped the counter, tears filling her eyes. The fear of what this moment meant, of losing everything, clutched at her heart with pain that threatened to consume her. "Before we continue, I need to let you know about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, hit that bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can drop a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, let me know in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen." Now let's continue. As fear twisted inside of her, Maria found herself in the emergency room, surrounded by sterile white walls that felt suffocating. A doctor, distracted and hurried, failed to meet her eyes. "You're fine," he said almost evasively, rushing to the next patient after a quick examination. The weight of indifference crashed down on Maria. This was her life, and it mattered. But in the depths of despair, a small flame flickered to life. When she finally met a young doctor who listened, truly listened, her heart leaped. It was that day that Maria realized her fight was not just for herself, but for every voice that felt unheard, underappreciated. "I'm not just a housekeeper or a mother," she thought fiercely. "I'm more than that. I deserve to be taken seriously." As hope flared in her heart like a wildfire, she began to understand that true healing meant confronting the very systems that had overlooked so many lives, including hers. Standing on the precipice of discovery, Maria felt the echoes of her community behind her, people just like her who had faced the same struggles. Would she finally take her voice and make it heard? The questions loomed like shadows, waiting to unfold as the journey ahead promised to be life-changing. Maria left the hospital with a mixture of hope and uncertainty swirling in her chest. The young doctor had reassured her, but the echoes of dismissive words from others still rang painfully in her ears. She stepped outside, the city enveloping her in its familiar chaos, yet everything felt different. She could feel the weight of her own resilience beginning to dawn on her, igniting a fire she never knew she could muster. As she walked home, determination settled into her bones. Maria looked around at the busy faces rushing past her, each one carrying their own burdens, their own unheard cries. They were all part of this great, unyielding system, a system that seemed to favor the loudest voices, silencing those who whispered for help. Bit by bit, her resolve deepened. She realized that she couldn't just be a part of the background any longer. She had to step forward. When she arrived home, the sleepy stillness of the apartment wrapped around her like a warm blanket. Miguel was still asleep, with his youthful dreams tucked away in the simplicity of slumber. With a fond smile, she brushed a lock of hair away from his forehead. The fight was for him, too. Everything she endured was to ensure a better future for her son. Later that evening, after her shifts at the diner, Maria sat at the kitchen table and stared at the family photo that hung crookedly on the wall. It was the only piece of art in their home, a captured moment of laughter and warmth. It reminded her of better times when they'd sit together, eating beans and rice, sharing stories that made them laugh until their sides hurt. They had talked about dreams, about Miguel going to college, about traveling, and about bright horizons. "I can't let him down," she whispered to herself, the determination burning brighter now. That night, instead of succumbing to exhaustion, she grabbed a battered notebook her son had left out. The pages were filled with cluttered notes about college applications and scholarships. She had often pushed those conversations aside, afraid to let her hopes rise only to be dashed. But that fear felt different now. Fueled by her fight for recognition and health, it transformed into a call to action. She began jotting down ideas, not just about applications but about ways to advocate for herself and others like her. Maria thought about holding community meetings, encouraging her neighbors to share their stories and demand better treatment. If they could unite their voices, perhaps they could break through the unyielding walls of bureaucracy that loomed over them. As night deepened, inspiration poured from her pen as if someone else were guiding her words. By the time dawn approached, she had created a rough outline for a gathering, a space where families could come together, share experiences, and talk about health and education. The fear that had once consumed her transformed into a surge of excitement. The first step was always the hardest, but she felt brave enough to take it. Before she went to bed, she glanced at Miguel's sleeping form one last time. She knew the journey wouldn't be easy, but for the first time in a long time, she felt hopeful. If others could hear her story, maybe they'd understand that every life mattered, that her struggle was valid, and that she wasn't alone. But as she drifted into sleep, a sudden thought jolted her awake. What if the road she was setting out on not only changed her life but also impacted the lives of countless others? Would she have the strength to face what lay ahead, to fight for her community, and for a future where voices like hers resonated loud and clear? The adventure had just begun. The sun broke over the horizon, spilling light into Maria's small kitchen as she woke with a purpose. She felt renewed, as if the warmth cascading through the window was charging her spirit for the day ahead. The notebook rested on the table, pages filled with her dreams, intertwined with the hopes of her neighbors waiting to be kindled. Miguel stirred, rubbing the sleep from his eyes. He looked up at her, and his sleepy smile anchored Maria. "Are we doing something fun today, Mama?" She chuckled softly, ruffling his hair. "We are going to change the world, one step at a time." His giggle lifted her further, and she felt that familiar fire ignite inside, the urge to do more than just survive. It was time to act. After breakfast, Maria set out to gather support for her community meeting. She walked through the neighborhood, her heart racing with anticipation. Each door she knocked on brought shy smiles and whispers of curiosity. At the first house, Mrs. Garcia welcomed her with open arms. "Ya esta, Maria. I thought no one cared," she exclaimed, her eyes shimmering with gratitude. Maria shared her vision, a gathering to discuss their shared struggles, their stories. Mrs. Garcia nodded vigorously, her enthusiasm infectious. They rallied more neighbors, all eager to speak out and be heard. "Let us find a space," Mrs. Garcia suggested. The community center down the street finally opened again. Maria felt the weight of possibility shift with every RSVP she received. Each person had a story: pain, frustration, dreams deferred. She could feel a movement brewing, one she had only wished for in the darkest moments of doubt. By the time she returned home, her hands were shaking from the excitement. "Miguel!" She called out, and he rushed in, his eyes wide with curiosity. "I'm throwing a meeting for our neighbors. We're going to talk about everything." His face lit up. "Is it like a big party?" "More like a big family gathering, where everyone can share what they need." Miguel's brow furrowed slightly. "Are people going to be nice?" Maria knelt beside him, looking straight into his innocent eyes. "Sometimes it's scary to speak up, but we all deserve to be listened to. That's what makes it worth it. And you know what? When we share, we help each other. It's like telling our stories together makes us stronger." As they prepared invitations, Maria's heart soared when she imagined the dozens of faces gathering, their stories blooming like flowers in a garden. That evening, the apartment had a different kind of energy. They danced together, laughter echoing off the walls, filling the empty spaces with hope. But in the back of her mind lingered a question that whispered to her, a thought that prickled her skin. Would anyone really show up? The next morning, with nerves clawing at her, she set up the community center, arranging chairs in a circle, hoping the atmosphere would encourage openness. Each click of the chair legs was a heartbeat, echoing in the silence of the room. As people began to filter in, their uncertain faces brought new doubts. Maria felt her stomach twist. Would this really matter? Would her voice matter? And just then, a woman she barely knew stepped forward, her eyes sparkling with tears. "Thank you for doing this, Maria. We need to be here. We need to be heard." A ripple of agreement followed, the room beginning to buzz. But as she glanced around at those waiting for her lead, a realization washed over her. This wasn't just about her anymore. Voices were building, hearts were stirring. Maria took a deep breath, the tension fading slightly as the first story began to unfold. The journey ahead felt heavy with responsibility, but she could already sense the momentum shifting. One story could spark another, and together, they could create change. And as the first voice resonated through the community center, one resounding thought thrummed in her mind: this was just the beginning. Would they uncover the hidden truths together and ignite hope in not just their lives but also in the lives beyond their walls? The moment of truth hovered closely, waiting to be grasped. Maria stood at the front of the room, heart pounding, as the first voice echoed off the walls. It was Mrs. Rodriguez, an older woman with a smile that could warm even the coldest hearts. She began to speak about her struggles finding affordable healthcare for her family. The words poured out, each one layered with the weight of years spent navigating the system alone. The room shifted. Attention honed in on her, drawing all that energy like a magnet. Maria could feel the other neighbors leaning forward, engaged, hungry to show their support. "I feel invisible in this world," Mrs. Rodriguez confessed, her voice trembling but steady. "Like my story doesn't matter. But it does. And maybe if we speak together, we can change things for our children." As she spoke, Maria's throat tightened, tears welling in her eyes. The pain in that room was palpable. But so was the courage. So many people who had never dared to share were stepping into the light, one by one. Next was Daniel, a young father whose anxiety about work had kept him silent. "I've felt so lost," he admitted, his voice breaking. "Like I'm letting everyone down just by trying to make ends meet. But I want my son to see a man who stands up for what is right." With each tale, the circle grew warmer. Laughter broke through the heaviness, joy mingled with heartache, and something special began to unfurl, a fragile, vibrant thread of hope weaving through their shared experiences. Maria felt an overwhelming sense of connection glide through the air. As the stories flowed, Maria started noticing the conversations propelling among the attendees. A neighbor began comforting another with a gentle hand on the shoulder. An impromptu discussion sparked as someone else chimed in, sharing solutions and resources. They were not only sharing stories but also becoming a family, and then she saw Miguel, eyes wide with wonder, taking in every word with the sincerity children have for the truth. Her heart swelled with pride. This was why she had done it, to show him that this world could be a better place if people joined their voices. But just as Maria thought things were flowing smoothly, a sudden hush fell over the crowd. A newcomer had entered. The door creaked, and all eyes turned to see who it was. It was a woman dressed in a sharp, formal suit, carrying a clipboard. Maria's heart sank. What was she doing here? She thought. The atmosphere shifted, tension creeping back. The woman cleared her throat, her eyes scanning the room, judging. "Excuse me," she called out, her voice clipped but authoritative. "I'm here from the city council. I need to know what you all want, but I cannot promise anything will change." Silence stretched thin. Maria could feel the air grow heavy. Dread threatened to engulf the room. Who was she to deliver false promises? But with a deep breath, Maria stepped forward, squaring her shoulders. "What would you have us say?" she asked, her voice ringing with newfound conviction. "We are here hungry for change, eager to share our truth." The woman's gaze hardened for a moment, and then exchanged glances with the neighbors. The next second, an unexpected wave of energy surged through the room. Their voices joined in a crescendo, powerful and unified. Stories punctured every doubt, and a fire ignited in each individual, a flame of hope that resonated louder than anything anyone had imagined. That moment turned into a realization that it was no longer just a gathering, it was an awakening. What no one expected was the woman in the suit quietly jotting down notes, the gears in her mind visibly shifting. As the meeting progressed, Maria wondered, with a tinge of uncertainty, what path this newfound energy would forge. Would their cries for change pierce the thick walls of bureaucracy holding them back? Could their voices impact decisions? And just when she thought it couldn't get any more intense, her phone buzzed violently in her pocket. Who would be reaching out now? The buzzing felt urgent, imposing, as though it held the key to something brewing just beyond their immediate understanding. Would this be a message of hope, or a wrench thrown in their plans? Tension gripped her as she contemplated whether to take a chance on uncertainty. Would she dare to seize it? Maria's fingers trembled as she pulled her phone from her pocket. The screen lit up with a message from an unknown number. She hesitated, uncertainty swirling in her stomach, but the urgency of the moment pushed her to click it open. "Maria, it's Sophia. I have some important news regarding your healthcare options. Call me ASAP." Her heart raced. Sophia was no ordinary acquaintance. She'd played a pivotal role in fighting for community rights, always seeming to hold the key to resources the rest of them desperately needed. Could this be what she had been hoping for, or would it bring disappointment? Before she could ponder further, the woman in the suit turned her attention back to the group, urging them to continue sharing. "Your stories matter more than you might understand," she said, her tone softer than before. Maria's heart wavered as she thought about Sophia's message, torn between the immediate encouragement around her and the shock of the news she might receive. "Let us keep this momentum going," called out Daniel, his voice rising with enthusiasm. "We need to let them know we won. Stop fighting." There was something electric in the way everyone nodded in agreement, sharing that spark of collective resilience. Maria felt it too, yet that buzz from her phone persisted in the back of her mind like a persistent echo. Then it hit her, a voice, familiar and resolute, called out from the audience. "I can't believe all of you feel the same way." It was Carol, a mother from down the street. "I thought I was the only one struggling with the system. Together, we can push for a change that actually cares about us." As nods of agreement rippled across the room, Maria felt heat rising to her cheeks. She could tell Miguel was watching intently, soaking it all in. Each story woven into the fabric of this meeting fortified their bond. Their cries were no longer mere whispers, but proclamations. But just as the energy climbed higher, a voice broke through the warmth. "But what if it's all useless? What if they don't listen?" It was Tom, a skeptical dad whose despair had kept him on the fringes of the group. His shoulders slumped, and he looked around, as though waiting for someone to share his doubt. "Tom, listen," Maria said, drawing everyone's eyes. "If we don't try, we won't even know. We owe it to ourselves and to our children to stand up." With that, she felt the weight of the room's silence shift. One by one, heads began to nod, determination spreading like wildfire. The woman in the suit raised her eyebrows as murmurs of agreement swelled through the crowd. Then Maria glanced back at her phone, momentarily torn away from the unity blooming before her. Taking a deep breath, she decided. I need to know if Sophia can help us, she thought. Interrupting the rich discussion, she held her hand up to get everyone's attention. I just received a message that could change everything for us. I need to make a call. Please allow me this moment. As she stepped away from the group, her heart thudded loudly in her chest. The room faded behind her as she pressed the phone to her ear. Please pick up, Sophia, she whispered under her breath, as her stomach fluttered. Just then, the woman in the suit moved closer to the crowd, a thoughtful look on her face as she began taking more notes, her attention riveted on the growing energy among the neighbors. The ringing faded, and then Maria. I've been looking for you. Sophia's voice burst through the connection, bubbling with urgency. I have crucial information, and it could change everything for your community. Maria's heart soared and sank at the same time. This was at the moment she had both yearned for and feared. But could the news push them over the edge into something transformative? What would the details do to the fragile sense of hope being woven in that room? Wait, don't stop there. She breathed, eager but anxious, as she turned back to the crowd and caught Miguel's hopeful gaze, silently urging her on. Sophia continued, but around her, the gathering pulsed like electricity, waiting for answers that could reshape their futures. What would Sophia reveal? Would it be a breakthrough or a twist of fate that left them even more helpless? Maria felt her heart racing, caught between joy and dread. Maria, listen closely. Sophia's voice broke through the static in Maria's mind. There's been a new initiative launched. It's a program aimed at providing comprehensive healthcare access to underserved communities. It's gaining traction, and your neighborhood could be among the first to benefit. Maria's breath caught in her throat. What kind of program? She asked, heart thumping like a drum. It's a partnership between local organizations, health clinics, and public health leaders. They're creating mobile health units to reach families directly. Yes, it's targeted toward people like us, those left behind by the system. As Sophia spoke, Maria's mind raced ahead, imagining the potential. Mobile health units could mean easy access to doctors, checkups for the kids, vaccinations, mental health services. The possibilities were vast. They could finally get the care they had been begging for, the care they deserved. But, how do we get involved? Maria asked, urgency coursing through her. There are community meetings planned to discuss the rollout. You need to rally your neighbors to attend. They'll need to hear your stories. You have to advocate for what your community needs. Your voices matter now more than ever, Sophia replied, her tone a mix of encouragement and urgency. Maria could feel the weight of Sophia's words. With every syllable, hope began to weave itself into her chest, loosening the fear that clenched around her heart. But what if they were too late? What if this was just another promise that would fade away like so many others? Maria? Sophia's voice cut through her swirling thoughts. Are you still there? Yes, yes. I'm here. Maria replied, shaking off her doubts. I'm listening. I'll gather everyone. We'll be there. When is the first meeting? Next week. The date will be confirmed soon. Just be ready to share your story, to bring everyone together. You're stronger than you know. Thank you, Sophia, Maria said, her voice thickening with emotion. I can't believe this is happening. After hanging up, Maria stood there for a moment, letting the buzz of excitement wash over her. The sound of her neighbors' voices drew her back to reality, and she turned to face them. Everyone. She called, her voice ringing out above the chatter. The room quieted, eager faces shifting toward her. I just spoke with Sophia. She has incredible news. There's a new healthcare initiative being launched that could directly benefit our community. Gasps and murmurs rippled through the crowd. Carol's eyes widened, and Daniel's jaw dropped. Excitement began bubbling over, their earlier nerves dissolving into a sea of curiosity. What does that mean for us? Someone asked from the back. It means we have a chance to finally access real healthcare right here, right now. We need to be present at the community meetings, share our stories, and make sure our voices are heard. Maria's heart hammered, fueled by the urgent need for change in their lives. But what if they don't listen? Tom's voice echoed again, the skepticism creeping back in. Maria stepped forward, meeting his gaze. If we don't try, we won't know what's possible. We owe it to ourselves. Our kids deserve this. The crowd shifted again, a new energy igniting in the air. This time, there were nods of agreement, smiles creeping onto faces previously shadowed by doubt. The woman in the suit leaned closer, eyes wide as she took in the transformation unfolding before her. Let us show up. Daniel shouted, raising his fist in the air. Let us fight for what's ours. As voices lifted in agreement, Maria could see the unity solidifying around her. Laughter joined the mixture of excitement, bills and tensions easing as shared hope took its place. She felt a weight lift, even as she recognized that this was just the beginning. With sunrise still ahead, they had to push through the darkness that had tethered them for so long, but just as the warmth spread among them, Maria's phone buzzed again, jolting her back. She glanced at the screen, frowning at another unknown number. Who is that? Carol asked. Her heart fluttered as she dismissed the call, but a whisper of dread crept into her mind. What if it was more bad news? What if this hope was just a mirage? Before she could contemplate further, she felt Miguel's hand on her shoulder, grounding her. Whatever it is, we'll deal with it together, he said quietly, determination in his eyes. Maria took a deep breath, her heart steadying. In that moment, she knew they had each other. Hope hung in the air, a living promise of possibilities yet unfolded, but what was the message waiting on her phone? Would it solidify their dreams or shatter the fragile hope they were building? With newfound resolve, Maria made a decision. Let us prepare. I'll check this later. For now, let us fight for what we can build together. As she turned back to the crowd, her pulse quickened with anticipation. You couldn't know what barriers awaited them. Yet the walls they fought against were still standing tall. How much longer would they endure? The crowd buzzed with excitement as Maria rallied her neighbors, but inside her, uncertainty still simmered. The unknown number left her a little shaken, but there was work to do, and she focused on that. Okay, everyone, she said, raising her hands for attention. We need to create a plan. Who can help with flyers for the community meetings? Count me in. Shouted Carol, eager to contribute. She had a knack for design and could whip up something engaging on her computer. Great. And we need people to spread the word. Daniel, can you take care of calling around? Maria turned her attention to him, and the flicker of determination in his eyes told her he was ready to step up. Absolutely. I'll even knock on doors if I have to, Daniel replied, his enthusiasm infectious. Maria couldn't help but smile at the ripple effect of energy surging through the room. Their small gathering quickly transformed into a planning session, complete with ideas and commitments cascading like a waterfall. As they discussed strategies, Maria felt her heartbeat steady, the fear was ebbing away. This wasn't just about healthcare, it was about creation, about fighting for something real, something tangible that their kids could have. She glanced at Miguel, who sat quietly but attentively. He had always been her rock. Want to join us in making calls? She asked him. He looked up, a small grin emerging. Nah, I'll stick to the cooking for now. Someone has to keep our strength up. Laughter erupted around the room. It was the first time in weeks that they felt laughter and unity together. Dark clouds above their heads were beginning to scatter, but just as she thought they were making headway, her phone buzzed again, a different unknown number this time. She picked it up, hesitantly glancing at the screen. The name flashing was a blast from the past. Dave. Her former boss. What does he want? She mumbled, a mix of dread and nostalgia wrapping around her heart. Who is it? Miguel noticed her pause. It's Dave, she replied, her voice trailing off. Memories flooded back, working late nights, stress about deadlines, the pressure that had driven her to leave that job. Would he be calling with an offer to come back? Do you want to take it? He asked, eyeing her carefully. No. Not now, she declared, her voice ringing with conviction. I need to focus on this. On us. With shaking hands, she put the phone down again. It felt like a weight lifting as she rejoined the conversation swirling around her. But doubt crept in, a tiny voice whispering, what if he offers something better? Time passed, filled with laughter and planning. By the end of the meeting, Maria felt a bittersweet warmth in her heart. Hope had taken root, stronger than before. As the neighbors began to leave, hugs were exchanged and smiles brightened with the promise of change. Maria stood with Miguel, watching the community come together in a way she had only seen in her dreams. The night was falling, and the air held a chill that made her shiver slightly. I can't believe how far we've come in just a couple of hours, she said to Miguel, feeling buoyed by their efforts. Just imagine how much we can do by next week, he replied, thumping her shoulder playfully. But inside, Maria felt that familiar flutter of anxiety. What if they failed? What if the meeting didn't yield results? Hey, Miguel said, pulling her to him gently, sensing her change in mood. Take it one step at a time. You led tonight. Just think what you can do when everyone shows up. Maria nodded, but just as she began to feel the stirrings of hope again, her phone buzzed once more. It was a message from an unknown number, and suddenly, her heart dropped into her stomach. She opened it slowly, dread pooling in her chest. What if it was news that would shake everything they had just built? The message appeared on her screen, waiting to be seen. Maria's hands trembled as she took a deep breath, grounding herself against the rising tide of uncertainty. What lay beyond this moment, and would it threaten the fragile hope they had just begun to nurture? Her heart raced as she stared at the screen, the message hanging in the air like an uninvited guest. It felt like the world had frozen around her, each second stretching like an eternity. With a deep breath, she finally allowed her eyes to scan the text, 3 simple sentences that could change everything. Maria, it's important you call me back. I've heard about your community efforts. We need to talk about your health. Maria's breath caught in her throat. The words tumbled through her mind, making her dizzy. Why was Dave reaching out to her about health? The memories of late-night spreadsheets and quick lunches rushed back, now tinged with a weight she hadn't anticipated. Somewhere deep down, she knew this conversation could take her off course. Her focus had been on the community that needed her now, yet here was a voice from her past urging her to rethink it all. Are you alright? Miguel's voice brought her back. He watched her with concern, eyes narrowing as he tried to gauge what was unfolding behind the veil of her thoughts. Just, a message from Dave, she said weakly, her throat dry. He wants to talk about health, ours, I guess. What does that even mean? Miguel frowned, frustration creeping into his tone. We should be focused on the meeting and everything we have planned. This is a distraction. I don't know, Miguel, Maria whispered. What if this is something we need to hear? Health is everything, isn't it? He sighed. She could see the wheels turning in his mind, the worry written all over his face. But what if he's not bringing good news? You left that job for a reason. The tension in the air was palpable. She could feel the doubts creeping back in, swirling like storm clouds. Yet a flicker of curiosity began to wrestle with her fear. The notion that maybe, just maybe, there was a vital piece of information waiting for her inside that call was hard to shake. Maybe it's important. Maybe it can help us mobilize everyone better, she said slowly, weighing the options. But I can't just drop everything now. Then don't, Miguel replied firmly, but gently. Take your time. Let us finish what we started tonight before engaging with the past. Focus on that strength you've gathered here. The warmth of Miguel's hand on her shoulder brought comfort, tugging her more firmly back into the present. They had found something special tonight, a bond that felt as solid as the ground underfoot. She wanted so badly to believe in it, to hold on to it. Maria steeled herself against the rising tide of anxiety. She glanced out the door, seeing neighbors chatting in small groups, laughter echoing off the walls of their community center. The connection between them felt so rich, so promising. Okay, I want to rush into it. Not yet, she finally decided, though a tiny knot of worry still lingered in her chest. But I do want to hear what he has to say sometime. Miguel nodded, as if approving an unspoken agreement. Just then, a few neighbors peered back inside, catching the tail end of their conversation. Daniel stepped in, face flushed with excitement, waving a small stack of colorful flyers. Look! I finished the flyers. We'll need your sign-off, Maria. His enthusiasm cut through the air, breaking her moment of contemplation. Let us see them. She exclaimed, grateful for the distraction. As the group gathered around, she felt the edges of her earlier anxiety begin to fade away. Joyful chatter filled the room again, blooming like flowers in spring. But even as she smiled and encouraged ideas about their flyers, a whisper of uncertainty lingered in her heart. What if the call was something she couldn't ignore? What if it changed everything they were working towards? The evening wore on, energy surging with each new plan they hatched, but Maria couldn't shake off that knot. As laughter circled around her, somewhere in the back of her mind, she understood there were bigger tides to navigate, and she was only beginning to feel the currents. When the last flyer was passed out, and the group finally dispersed into the chilly night, she took a deep breath, contemplating all that lay ahead. There was little time before their first meeting, and yet, a shadow of doubt returned. What awaited her in that phone call? And would her commitment to the community withstand whatever truth Dave had to share? Tonight, amidst old obstacles and budding hope, Maria steeled herself for the unknown. And somewhere in the distance, her phone buzzed again, a reminder of the weight of a past she thought she could finally leave behind. Maria sat on the edge of her bed, her phone lying face up on the comforter, the screen still aglow. The brief silence in the room felt too loud, echoing her rising anxiety. She had to make a decision, but the weight of it pressed down on her shoulders like a heavy blanket. The late-night laughter from the community center still lingered in her ears, a reminder of the connection she'd formed since leaving her old life behind. As she took a moment to breathe deeply, the sweet scent of lavender from the diffuser in the corner calmed her mind, if only for a fleeting second. Focus, she whispered to herself. But the thought of what Dave might say gnawed at her. 1,000 what-ifs filled her mind, each more daunting than the last. What if he had news that changed everything? Against her better judgment, she felt an urge to confront the truth. After all, sometimes facing your past leads to growth, to healing. She wasn't just battling old memories, she was wrestling with the very fabric of her identity. Was she still the overworked analyst who couldn't separate her job from her life, or had she transformed into someone who could truly serve her community? Taking another deep breath, she picked up her phone and saw the missed call icon flashing. Her heart raced again. It was a reminder of how vulnerable she felt. Should she return the call, preparing herself for whatever he might reveal? Or should she protect the newfound purpose she had embraced with open arms? As she weighed her options, the chilling autumn air wafted in through the slightly open window, bringing the scent of damp leaves and the whispers of winter. What if it's just a simple assessment? She thought. Maybe he knew how much she had put into the community, and perhaps he could offer something valuable. But could she handle another emotional storm? Just then, a soft knock on the door jarred her from her thoughts. It was Miguel, holding a steaming cup of chamomile tea. Thought you might need this. You've been working so hard, he said with a gentle smile, his eyes warm and inviting. Oh, Miguel. Thank you, she replied, accepting the cup and inhaling its calming aroma. It's just, everything weighs on me sometimes. I can't shake off this knot in my stomach. What's on your mind? He asked, leaning against the doorframe, his expression softening with concern. It's Dave. He reached out to talk about health. I don't know if I'm ready for what that might entail. Her voice trembled slightly as she spoke, and she took a careful sip of the tea, the warmth soothing her frayed nerves. Miguel stepped inside, closing the door softly behind him. He moved closer and sat beside her, his presence grounding. "You've come so far, Maria. It's okay to be scared. But don't let the past dictate who you are now. You're not alone in this." His words wrapped around her like a safety net, and in that moment, she realized she had partners in this journey. She rose from her chair, the cup trembling slightly in her hands. "What if I find out something I don't want to know?" "Face it head on. You're capable of handling more than you think," he replied firmly yet compassionately. "You've already inspired so many. Whatever the truth is, it can help you and others move forward." His confidence fueled her resolve. Maybe confronting Dave wasn't about revisiting old wounds. Maybe it was about gathering knowledge for the benefit of the community she had come to love. "I'll call him," she decided, her voice steady and determined. After all, wasn't he that what they were fighting for? The chance to live freely, to pave the way for those who might feel lost. With new determination, she took a deep breath and picked up her phone, fingers hovering above the screen. "But he better be ready for a whole lot of questions," she added, a smirk slowly growing on her face. Just as she was about to dial, a sudden image flashed in her mind. What if this call truly changed everything? What if within those depths of uncertainty lay a way to heal not just herself, but the entire community? Maria glanced at Miguel, who nodded encouragingly. Right decisions often come with a side of fear. As she steadied her heart, she finally pressed the call button. The ringing tone echoed. She could feel the warmth starting to dissipate as the call connected. The potential for transformation surged in her chest. "Hello, Dave." She began, and just that small word ignited a pathway forward. But as he responded, she realized this conversation would unveil layers she never anticipated. What awaited her was more than just a discussion about health. It would reveal depths of understanding and choices that could either anchor her further to the community or drag her into the depths of the unknown. And it wasn't only about her anymore. With every tick of the clock, she could feel that the real journey was just beginning. Maria took a deep breath, her heart pounding as she prepared to navigate the conversation that lay ahead. "Hello, Dave," she said cautiously, feeling the weight of her past colliding with her present. The sound of his familiar voice swept back memories of sleepless nights and relentless stress. "Maria. I'm glad you picked up," he said, his tone a mixture of urgency and concern. "I've heard about your community efforts. Let us talk about your health. I know things have been tough." The knot in Maria's stomach tightened. "What do you mean by that?" "There's been a shift in our healthcare system," he continued, brushing past her confusion. "As the pressures on communities rise, I've made it my mission to connect people with resources they need. I know you've been fighting for a cause, and I want to help." Entwined in emotions, Maria felt a sense of hope rising, a thread of possibility weaving through their exchange. "What kind of help are you talking about?" she urged, wanting clarity while the uncertainty buzzed in her chest. "New programs are being initiated to support people directly," he explained, his tone softening. "It's about opening channels for both healthcare access and community advocacy. I want you to lead the charge. Your voice is powerful, and your passion is contagious." Maria was caught off guard. "Led? Me?" Her mind raced. Could she really take on more? But she thought of Miguel, the neighbors, everyone counting on her. What if I fail? What if here's what I know? There are mobile health units, workshops, resources. More importantly, you've already begun gathering people. You're becoming a beacon for them, and if you bring this initiative to your community, it could change everything. With each word, Maria felt her doubts melting away. This was more than just a call from her past, it was an invitation to transform lives, including her own. But on the other end, she could hear the hesitance still lingering. "What's the catch?" she asked. "No catch. Just commitment, he replied firmly. I need you engaged, ready to advocate, and willing to share your journey. These voices need to echo in the right halls. Maria's thoughts flashed to the meeting where they had just begun whispering their truths, the power of collective voices rising like a tide. I'm in, she said before she even processed the words. I believe we can do this. Perfect. I'll send over everything you need: dates of community meetings, flyers, assessments. You'll be a key player, Maria. This is your chance. As the call ended, Maria felt like a different person. The past felt less like a burden and more like a stepping stone to a brighter future. She looked up, and Miguel stood in the doorway, eyes wide with curiosity, anticipation sparkling in the air. What is going on? He asked, bouncing on the balls of his feet. We just got the green light. Maria exclaimed, her voice bursting with joy. We can really make a change. Miguel's face lit up. Really? What can we do? Everything. We're going to lead our community to better healthcare, support one another like never before. She swept him into a hug, overwhelmed by emotion. Her vision expanded beyond just surviving. They had a chance to thrive. As the days unfolded into a blur of planning and community engagement, Maria noticed hearts beginning to stir in her neighborhood. Families gathered in support, listening to each other's experiences. The air buzzed with excited discussions about what the future could hold. The following week at the community center felt electric. Neighbors filled the room, eager and hopeful, eyes glistening like stars. Together, they shared stories, fears, and dreams. Maria felt vibrant energy shifting, reinforcing bonds that had once felt fragile. Laughter erupted as they devised a plan to showcase their needs boldly and passionately. Then came the day of the first community meeting for the healthcare initiative. Maria stood with Miguel by her side, facing a crowd ready for change. She could see the woman in the suit from before, now an ally rather than a stranger. Welcome, everyone. Maria began, her voice steady. And brave. Today marks a new journey, not just for us as individuals, but as a community. We're here to be heard. Miguel beamed at her side, giving her the strength she needed. They shared stories with fervor, their words punching through barriers that had held them back for far too long. And as voices rose in unison, the room echoed with hope. Together, we can build a future where our needs are met. Maria called, feeling the warmth that had bloomed over these months finally becoming a solid belief. Each person in that room owned a piece of the change happening. They were no longer whispering in the dark. They were roaring. That moment, with tears welling in her eyes, Maria saw clearly that they had triumphed over past struggles. The transformations, the support, everything was a testament to the strength born from unity. Afterward, as families milled about, Miguel tugged at her sleeve. Mama, are we really changing things? She knelt beside him, a radiant smile spreading across her face. Yes, my love, we are. And we'll keep fighting for what we all deserve: a healthy life and a hopeful future. They stepped outside into the glow of dusk, hand in hand, ready to confront whatever came next. Immediately, Maria felt an urgency rising within her. This was just the beginning. The journey ahead was filled with work, hope, and determination. As she glanced back at her neighbors, laughing and forging bonds, Maria realized they were stronger together than she'd ever imagined. An endless path unfolded before them, leading to brighter tomorrows, and she intended to walk it every step of the way. Maria awakened that morning with a resolute spirit, ready to fight not only for her family but for her community, the very essence of her existence. Join the movement and support the journey. Do not wait another moment. Subscribe immediately to the channel to not miss these exclusive stories on transformation and hope. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and show you want to be a part of this amazing journey. Comment your feelings about this powerful ending and what it means to you. And share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this transformation unfold. This is the moment to show your support. You need to be a part of this incredible community.